Hey guys, it is Mike from the Time Rift Arcade, and today I'm going to start the restore on this amazing and somewhat bizarre looking Street Fighter 3 Second Impact game. I think this is a game that a lot of the arcade goers will love to play. It's in a little bit of a bad shape, and I have to tell you, I'm not even sure what cabinet this is. I know it's a Dynamo. It's got a Dynamo cut corner control panel on it, and it's got the typical Dynamo shape to it, but it's got a lot of oddities like this overlapping side panel. I Googled around the internet, I asked some friends, nobody really knows what it is. So if you know, please let all of us know in the comments, and I'll pin your comment, if you know what the actual model number of this Dynamo cabinet is. So I bought this cabinet at an auction about 2 years ago and put it in storage and then never worked on it. So now we're just now pulling it out, and my memory told me that the monitor was not good and that that all of the controls did not work. But now that I've got it here, I do remember the monitor it's not great. I do believe it's probably a bad tube. Maybe we can rejuve it, we'll see. But my bigger fear that all of the controls didn't work actually turned out to not be true. A few of them don't work, but it looks like, just from testing, it looks like they're just bad micro switches. So we probably can fix that pretty quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and tear it all down, start the restore process, and we'll see where we go. Disassembling an arcade cabinet is sort of like opening a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to run into until you get inside. Every game has its unique history and quirks. I always open a game expecting the worst and hoping for the best. In this case, I am thrilled to find what looks like a mostly untouched CPS3 board, cartridge, and CD-ROM drive. Mike would stop by and help me remove the monitor from the cabinet. It is ridiculously heavy. Looking at the markings on this beast, it appears to be a 29-inch Nanao monitor. In the bottom of the cabinet is a huge pile of trash and money. More on that in a bit. This T-molding was applied by the auction company, and it has to go. I've got something special in mind that I think you'll appreciate. It appears that someone tried to pry the coin box out of this game at some point. I'll fix that up and repair it. Look at all the money. Mostly dimes, kind of strange. And there's a bunch of tokens, and they all seem to be from Thunder Zone Go-Kart Raceway. Doing some Googling, it looks like Thunder Zone is now out of business, but it was located about 5 hours west of the Time Rift Arcade in Lubbock, Texas. Too bad it closed down. It looked like a pretty fun place. I went ahead and vacuumed out all of the rat's nests that were left inside of the cabinet, and then got to work sanding the kick panel. The cabinet had lock bars over the coin doors. Makes sense, as we can all tell it's been broken into before, but I hate the big holes that it leaves. So we're going to fill these holes with Bondo and make the front of the cabinet clean again. The cabinet has also been dropped at some point, and the corners are busted out. This side is the worst, but both sides need repair. In this case, I'm going to just saw off the broken area and replace it with an entirely new piece of wood. After attaching the new wood section, I'll just Bondo in the gaps to make it seamless again. A little sanding down to 220 grit, and you'll never be able to tell it was ever repaired. Now it's time to get to work sanding down the side panels of the cabinet. I don't know what kind of paint this is coated with, but it sands like truck bed liner. It's thick and gooey. Before painting it, I routed the T-molding slot back into the corner of the cabinet that had to be replaced. Finally, I repainted the cabinet with 2 coats of satin black using an oil-based paint. Oil-based paints work way better when applying artwork. In addition to better bonding, oil-based paint won't gas out over time and cause bubbles under the artwork. Next up, I wanted to turn my attention to the power supply. It seemed to work fine, but the fan sounded like a jet engine when the game was turned on. I removed the screws from the fan so that we could get it out, and oh my god, that is disgusting. There's your problem. I also found several loose screws inside the power supply, so it's a good thing we're servicing it. Using some compressed air, I went to work blowing, well, whatever this is, out of the power supply. I then got a new fan with the correct specs out of the parts room and installed it where the old one was. And put the power supply back into the cabinet. I also installed a new LED fixture into the Marquee slot. The Marquee for this game is impossible to find, so I recreated it the best I could in Photoshop. I then printed it on Translite using our large format printer. Rather than a single sheet of thick acrylic, I prefer to use 2 pieces of acrylic and sandwich the Translite between them. This keeps the Marquee from sagging over time. To avoid scratches, I always clean all 4 sides of the acrylic with a microfiber cloth. And guys, I feel like this turned out fantastic. The cabinet was missing the original Marquee retainer brackets, so I installed some brand new ones. You can cut these to size, and we sell them in the Geek Pub store. And here it is. And let's see what it looks like with the lights turned off. Off camera, I repainted the coin doors, so we'll just install that now. I used a Street Fighter 3 Second Impact promotional poster and added some enhancements in Photoshop to create some custom medallions for the side of the cabinet. And this is where I get to reveal the pink T-molding, because silly me didn't have the camera recording when I installed it. I use an air release vinyl that makes bubble-free installation of artwork a breeze. On larger panels, I like to use rapid tack to make installation easier, but on these smaller medallions, I just don't really need it. And I think that looks pretty cool. Now it's time to turn our attention to the control panel. Nearly half of these microswitches don't work, or at least don't work reliably. The control panel itself is in really poor shape too. It needs a total restore, and that's exactly what I was intending to do. But Mike Woods found this completely restored and ready to go control panel on Facebook Marketplace, so we're just going to swap it out. And since the color scheme of the game artwork is pink and yellow, we're going to go with pink and yellow buttons for a matching look. Whoever put this together the last time was nice enough to label all of the buttons, so I'm going to leave the current microswitches attached and just remove them. This will make figuring out the wiring on the new panel super easy. For those who might be wondering, I will keep this old control panel around in our parts bin. At some point, we'll buy a cabinet with the missing control panel, and this one will be around to save the day. Easy enough, just 4 nuts to take it off. I did add lock washers when putting it back though. You'd be surprised how necessary lock washers on nuts are in public arcades. These are of course brand new buttons, and as I mentioned before, I'm going to install brand new microswitches on all of them. I was just going to reuse these joysticks. This one's probably in the best shape, but it's still missing parts and there's broken pieces, and I'd have to order a rebuild kit and all that, and it's just not all that exciting. So what I went ahead and did was ordered 2 brand new ILs in pink and yellow to match our color scheme, and so that's what we're gonna go with. I was super happy that this control panel had welded studs for the joystick. This means no joystick bolt heads on the visible side of the panel. As mentioned earlier about lock washers, I am going to use lock nuts here for similar reasons. You have to take the bats off the joysticks to install them. They just slide through the center, then add on the actuator block, and then finally install an E-clip to secure them. I could not be more pleased with how this color scheme turned out. The pink and yellow are a huge win in my book. Off camera, I cleaned up the monitor and did some minor rework. We'll save that for a future video. And Mike Woods once again dropped by to help me put this beast back into the cabinet. I don't know how much this thing weighs, but I'll bet you there are some local gyms that could use it to train weightlifters. Now it's time to start putting the final touches on the restore. I'll eventually make a custom moves bezel for this machine, but for now we're just going to put the black bezel back in until I have time to get to it.